John Fincher, and John has written on this request that he would like to have a little bit of extra time. And,
approximately 8 minutes total.
Okay, and in honor of his position as President of the Faculty Association.
Madam President, thank you very much. Members of the board, administrators, guests. I'm John Fincher, President of the Citrus College Faculty Association. On January 29th of this year, our CTA office in Santa Fe Springs received a letter from a member of the community. This person lives approximately 6 miles from here in Covina. From 1983 to 1981, he was employed by the United States Postal Service as a letter carrier. He worked at the Azusa Post Office. He tells a story about an apartment complex at 385 North Rockville Avenue. He would load mail into what is commonly referred to as a gang box. One of those boxes had a peculiar habit of filling up many weeks at a time, as if nobody lived there. Then it would suddenly be empty. Then it would fill up again. And then after several more weeks, it would be empty. This pattern continued for several years. One day, he happened to talk to the manager of the complex when he was loading the mail. He asked her about apartment 42, which received mail in the name of Gary Woods. She said that he worked at Citrus College and used the apartment when he would work late and didn't want to drive home. She said that he had business at Citrus College and that he only came by occasionally. Wait a minute. Does Mr. Woods live in Azusa, or does he live someplace else? Mr. Gary Woods has represented Azusa since 1982. He currently lists his residence as 450 North Soldano, Unit 242F in Azusa. It is located in the Soldano Senior Village Apartments. It appears to be a one-bedroom rental apartment. What is curious is that while he's been an instructor at Pasadena City College, he is also an attorney. Does it seem odd that somebody with that type of income stream would reside in a one-bedroom rental in a senior citizen complex in a predominantly fixed income area? Mr. Woods is a prominent member of the faculty at PCC. He was also head of the CTA local union there for many years. He is familiar with CTA. CTA is also familiar with him. CTA is our parent organization and aware of this residency issue. They decided to look into it themselves. They retained their own legal counsel and started an investigation. They collected information on the legal question of what constitutes appropriate residency to hold office and what case law exists in the state of California on this subject. Here's what we know for sure. Anyone that wishes to run for office in the state of California can have multiple residences. You can have a second home at Lake Arrowhead, for example, or maybe a place out in Palm Springs. If you're really well off, you can have a place out by the beach. But there's one important distinction that cannot be ignored. If you do run for elective office, you must meet residence eligibility requirements. And what is sufficient to be eligible? The answer is in California Election Code, Section 349. Residence, for voting purposes, means a person's domicile. The domicile of a person is that place in which his or her habitation is fixed, wherein the person has the intention of remaining, and to which, whenever he or she is absent, the person has the intention of returning. At a given time, a person may have only one domicile. Is the Soldano Senior Village Apartments his domicile? How do we find out for sure? The attorney that CTA contracted with went out and retained a private investigation firm. Their job was not just to collect evidence, but to help determine what kind and type of evidence could be used. What evidence would be acceptable and persuasive? We now know that he owns an office building and a residence in Pasadena. We also know that in the past couple of years he purchased another residence. This time a 3,200 square foot, $1.1 million view home high over Sierra Madre. Apparently it has an 800-gallon saltwater aquarium. It sounds a little better than a one-bedroom rental. But how do you know he lives there? How do we find out that Sierra Madre is his domicile? Surveillance commenced in January, concluded a couple of weeks ago. Over 150 photographs, hours of video later, we know the answer. Virtually every morning he leaves the Sierra Madre residence at approximately 6:50 a.m. At the end of his day, he backs up into his driveway at 1212 Arno, and then he goes inside to retire for the evening. Azusa is apparently not a part of the normal agenda. How should you, the board, access this evidence? The story is all online on a website for public consumption. It also includes many of the pictures and video. Simply go to the following, www.firegarywoods.com. What should the board do with this evidence? First of all, you should retain legal counsel. In our research, our legal counsel suggests that you could vote to vacate the Azusa board position due to lack of legal domiciled residency status. There are numerous cases throughout California in which various boards, confronted with a similar situation, have done just that. For example, several years ago, Grossmont School District, the Attorney General of the State of California ruled in Opinion 97-1008 that residences for purposes of Education Code 35107 means domicile, a place of physical presence, coupled with an intention to make that place one's permanent home. A person may only have one domicile at a given time. He continues, an election residence requirement remains during the entire term of office as a continuing qualification for holding the office. Hence, if defendant failed at any time during her term of office to qualify as a resident of the district, her office became vacant upon such occurrence. The Attorney General concludes that both the public and the district have an interest in the integrity of public office and in the qualifications of their officials. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, you have got a couple of weeks before the next board meeting. You have time to look at the evidence at www.firegarywoods.com and to retain counsel. At the next board meeting in April, there should be a vote to vacate the Azusa position and begin the process to appoint a successor. That successor should be a domiciled resident of the city of Azusa. Before I go, I'd like to thank Dr. Ron Norton-Reel, president of CCA, for flying down from Sacramento. He will be speaking to you in just a minute. Just 2 weeks ago, Ron had major surgery. We're all glad to see him up and about again. I know he was disappointed he couldn't run in the LA Marathon yesterday, but I'm sure he will try next year. Yeah, sure. Secondly, Ms. Lynette Nagaya, Vice President of CCA, Dr. Lynette, excuse me, lost her father just last week. Very appreciative of her taking the time to come here tonight during this particularly emotional and stressful situation. Thanks, Lynette. Mr. Dwayne Schaefer, Secretary of CCA, came up from Long Beach City College, an institution that's been rolled by financial setbacks resulting in the layoff of numerous faculty there. Thanks for taking the time and coming up, Dwayne. Also, I'd like to thank Ms. Emma Haney, head of CTA's legal division at CTA headquarters up in Burlingame, who personally was involved. She began and approved and authorized the initiation of this inquiry. And thanks to all the subcontractors that were retained to collect and disseminate all this information. This concludes my presentation.
As you know, we cannot discuss this matter this evening,
Absolutely.
as it is not on the agenda, but thank you.